What if I told you that the decline of Equestria Girls wasn't because of a script or creative decision matter? That maybe the end of this franchise was the result of choices that altogether dismantled everything that made it special? Hey beautiful people, I'm Julie and let's go to the start of everything. Equestria Girls started as a boat spin-off. The idea was to bring the characters of My Little Pony to a new environment, the human world, where they would go to high school and live modern adventures, mixing magic with teenage drama. It was a risky move, but one that worked at the beginning of it. The first movie was a success. And the audience was caught by the way values like friendship and harmony that were adapted to this alternative universe. But as every good story, Equestria Girls faced some challenges along its development. And maybe the biggest of all was the struggle to please different audience without losing its essence. First of all, we need to talk about him, Flash Sentry. Introduced as Twilight's romantic interest, he completely split the fanbase. For many, Flash was unnecessary. Twilight is an amazing character by herself, so why try to shove this shallow romance into our faces? Some argue that Flash Sentry was created to humanize Twilight, making her more accessible for the teenage audience. As we know, teen romances are a common narrative resource target for that kind of audience. However, the execution of it was a little bit off. Flash Sentry has little to no development as a character. He was just the cool guy that Twilight liked, but had no story nor emotional depth. That made many fans see him as a disposable element, something that was there just to fulfill a narrative role. Besides that, Twilight and Flash romance wasn't fully explored in the movie. Their relationship was left on the background in their next movies. That really showed that he had no place in the story. And when sci-wi took over the role of protagonist, Flash Sentry was forgotten even more. After all, he had no connection with this new version of Twilight. There's also a problem with the brony community. Many fans felt jealous of the character with that romance idea, and many argued that Twilight couldn't date and blah blah blah. If Flash Sentry was its own problem, the arrival of sci-wi was an earthquake that completely shook the course of the series. When Twilight was introduced in Equestria Girls friendship games, the dynamic of the series started to change. So far, Twilight from Equestria was the link that connected both worlds. She was the bridge between the magical universe of My Little Pony and the human world of Equestria Girls. With the arrival of sci-wi, this connection was broken. From that point onward, the human main six didn't rely on Equestria's Twilight anymore. They had their own Twilight that didn't need no magic nor interdimensional travels to be part of the team. On one side, this challenge allowed the series to become more independent. On the other side, it took away what Equestria Girls had that made it special. Without its link to Equestria, the spin-off lost its identity and become just a high school plot with some magical elements. One of the main theories of why this show came to an end is that it was a direct consequence of its disconnection with My Little Pony. In the first movies, the series was a complement to the original universe. The fans could see the human versions of their favorite characters and follow their story that explained the magical world of Equestria. But as the series focused more in sci-wi and the human main six, this connection was lost. And the audience that loves My Little Pony started to feel disconnected, while new fans that arrived because of Equestria Girls had no attachment to the original universe. Another theory is that the series wore off because of some narrative formulas. Each movie, the characters face a villain with a magical artifact that threats the human world, and although that works for some time, with the time it becomes predictable. The lack of innovation in the plot could have contributed to the audience lack of interest, different than My Little Pony that had an emotional and well-planned finale. Equestria Girls simply didn't stop. It had no big last episode or some epic closure or even a conclusion for the characters' arcs. Many fans believe that this was the result of budget cuts and Hasbro's decision to shift the focus to other projects. This lack of an ending left a bitter taste in many fans' mouths. After all, coming from many movies, shorts, and specials, the series deserved a proper ending. An interesting theory is that the introduction of sci-wi wasn't just a coincidence decision, but an attempt to restart the franchise. By putting human Twilight in the center of the story, the writers could maybe plow the field for a new generation of fans that didn't need to know My Little Pony to enjoy Equestria Girls. However, this strategy could have been solved. By substituting Equestria's Twilight for human Twilight, the series lost its emotional connection with the original audience. Besides that, sci-wi, although being an interesting character, never had the same impact and charisma of her magical counterpart. Now, let's dive a little deeper. What if in the end of Equestria wasn't a mistake, but a strategy from Hasbro? Maybe at the time, people on the introduction were already thinking about ending G4. That's why they thought it was better to end the spin-off as well. Because from what we know, they had another movie in mind that was never released on the big screens. What if that happened because they figured that the whole animation was coming to an end? The idea was to clean the table and start over, with no characters, no story arc, and concept that could attract a new generation of fans. In this context, Equestria Girls wasn't cancelled because it was a failure, but because it was fulfilled. That made me curious. We had some rumors about a possible return of Equestria Girls, but with characters from this new generation. Will that come to light someday? This return could bring some answers for us, providing that they didn't stop the production of the new movies because of low profits, but because they simply thought it was time to stop. So, what do you think about all of this? Was it Flash Sentry, sci-wi, or the team's decision that lead the end of the series? Or did Equestria Girls fulfill its mission and stopped at the right time? Tell me in the comments and share this video so we can discuss this with our friends as well. Thank you a lot for watching this video till here, and hasta la vista!